Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for another Alpha X Pro Replay Cast. Today we're going to be bringing you the DreamHack Europe Grand Finals between these two amazing young players. So spawning down in the bottom position as the Red Terran, he is Team Liquid's CLEM. And his opponent up in the top as the Blue Zerg, playing for Clash. He is REYNOR. So two young prodigies in the game, really making a huge name for themselves over the past couple of years. REYNOR, obviously one of the best players in Europe and the world, taking down such amazing legends recently. And CLEM, I mean, his rising star is something to behold. Both players have really worked hard to get to this position, and it's going to be very fun to see these two clash. This is actually the first time I've ever seen these two fight, believe it or not, and this is exciting. Now, CLEM, one of those players, he can really take it to the late game. He's kind of known sometimes for going into those later stage situations and really just whittling you down over and over and over again. And, you know, REYNOR, one of those players, he's got a good repertoire of builds to kind of deal with that. You know, he's got those cheeses that are really aggressive. He can have a really solid late game. But, I mean, the mid game is where I've seen him kind of thrive the most, all things considered. Now, already a little bit of a different start here for CLEM, as he has skipped the Reaper entirely. Instead, going to be going straight up to a couple of Marines, adding on an additional, adding on the factory rather, and getting that additional refinery. So that does mean aggression in my eyes. And I mean, if you're going to do something aggressive, Jagannatha is the map to do it. Just kind of wants to get that win early, because if you do so, then you aren't going to have to deal with the explosion of Zerg over such a long distance of map. There you have it, the first couple of Hellions about to spawn out. He's got that second base as well, so he can kind of just pump through these units. The Mule's going to help out immensely for the macro stage of things. And really, this has got to be seen by REYNOR. This is one of those builds where if it's blindsiding you, then it really allows the Terran player to get such an immense lead because of how fast it hits, because of the fact that usually you don't have Banelings, you don't have too many lings out. You're kind of just having the bare minimum for the defense. And here we go. The armory is dropped. The Marines should load up here pretty darn soon. And the Hellions starting to move their way across the map. Getting a little bit deflected here, but you don't want to take too much damage on them just yet. Now REYNOR is going to get a beautiful glance at everything, sees the armory, he sees the lift up as well. And just the fact that the Hellions have not gone in just yet, that kind of is really telling, because you do like to see them being a little bit more aggressive with the Hellions, take a little bit more damage off of them, because that does mean that this isn't coming. But here we go. Very aggressive move forward here. REYNOR going to be going for a little bit of counter damage of his own. Gets straight into the main base, deflecting the Hellions, but good micro by CLEM. Going to keep that alive for as long as possible. The medevac has to be careful. Don't want to lose that. The healing potential is just immense here. But already CLEM just starting to get forced back just a little bit. Trying to fight outside of that spine crawler range on the other side of the map. Finally getting cleaned up is REYNOR. So CLEM is playing this very safe, all things considered. He doesn't really want to lose these units, but REYNOR, though, does not want to give him any more time. He says, you know what? You try to be aggressive versus me, I'm going to just kill you right now when you don't have any of your units at home. I mean, this is the perfect move out for REYNOR right now. Gonna get the tap out, and we are gonna head to game number 2. So stick around, guys. See you in a sec. And here we are in game number 2. They've gone to Submarine, a much smaller map than Jaganantha. So it's going to be interesting to see how they play this one out. Spawning in the top position, he is Clash REYNOR. And his opponent down here in the bottom for Team Liquid, he is CLEM. So taking a look at the first kind of choices here, CLEM going to be going for that gas first. And what that'll allow him to do is tech up a little bit more solidly. We did see in the last game, he skipped the Reaper. And from that skipped Reaper, he tried to go for this big, crazy aggression. But the thing is, he wasn't very committed to it, it seemed like, just from the fact that he wasn't really moving in. He didn't try and dive on top of those queens. He just kind of stayed back, held back a lot, and tried to keep those Hellions alive. Unfortunately, though, that kind of cost him as the reinforcements kept getting picked off on the other side from the counterattack of REYNOR. Now, REYNOR obviously does have this spawning pool first, but it's not the most aggressive one. So we still might see a couple of queens and some links sending across the map. I think with that, it is good to kind of just get a little bit of aggression done. It's not really all in, and you don't really deny yourself too much. But I digress. REYNOR, though, is going to know what he wants to do here in just a second, as this Reaper going to be coming across, and the first scout by CLEM's SCV is going to reveal that this is a spawning pool first. Now there we go. On the back of this, he does have enough gas to throw down that reactor and the factory very quickly. And yeah, that's kind of just the power of the gas first. A lot of players do like to do it, especially versus Terran and Protoss. But versus Zerg, it does have its uses. The Reaper as well, just being kept back. He does want to kind of get an indication on when that stuff is coming across the map, because he did see that spawning pool first. And now he should feel a little bit safer just seeing the Lings still back at home. So he is going to send that Reaper in for a little bit of a pokey poke. No armory this time. I don't think this is going to be another Hellbat timing. So with that, we do have that starport. A relatively simple build order here from REYNOR this time. Kind of interested to see, and actually, he is gonna add on some Banshees to this. Unfortunately, REYNOR has got full wind of what's coming his way, so he can know that he just needs to grab a couple of Spore Crawlers, go up to Lair Tech, get that Overseer in production, and from there he should feel pretty darn safe. And yeah, there you go. Lair Tech has started. The Banshees not going to be as effective. Honestly, in this situation, I think REYNOR has just got perfect information. And really, you shouldn't lose too much to this attack, especially not to the Hellions. Get out of the way, man. You can't stop the way of progress as he throws down that third base behind this. So, I mean, really, CLEM is setting himself up very nicely for the later stages of the game. Not really being too aggressive, again, with these Hellions, trying to keep them alive, keep them kind of concerted together. We might see a dive with this. the queens in the back to defend, and that might be the key for CLEM to move in there onto the third base. A couple of lings on the way just to kind of prevent that. But, okay. Just a small dive, not really too much going for him right there. And the Banshee going to be moving in, but he didn't get at anything whatsoever. Behind this, we got the Inji base coming on up. Now with the stim about halfway complete. So really, the fact that he's kept these Hellions alive does mean that he can add them into a very concerted push here in just a little bit. Wants to be a little bit more cautious with them as that creep very far forward. And basically what that allows REYNOR to do is kind of reinforce this forward position much easier, make it more difficult for these Hellions to move around. Now, the big thing about Terran aggression in TVZ is you never really want to be too far off from your next push. And by that, what I essentially mean is you always want to have some sort of aggression, some sort of poke moving across the map in kind of a sequence time. For example, after sending the Hellions in, you sometimes want to go for that double medevac drop in the back with stim. You want to send the Banshees in. You kind of just want to force the opponent to be looking in multiple locations at once. Because at this stage, they're still kind of figuring out how many units can they realistically get away with while they drone up to that very powerful 80 to 90 drone count. But yeah, here we go. CLEM is going to be reinforcing this position with additional Marines, and stim is complete. Now this is going to be the indicator for REYNOR to move in with his big batch of lings. But right now, CLEM is in a good position to kind of defend that. The Banelings getting soaked up in the front by these Hellions. But CLEM still being very cautious with all of this. He does not want to overextend and lose this first push. Looks like REYNOR, though, is going to get right on top of this. Does get a very good trade there with the Banelings. A lot of the Hellions do survive in the medevacs with a smattering of the Marines, so CLEM not done with this attack just yet. But again, just being very cautious. He hasn't really been pushing the issue a lot on REYNOR's side of the map. Just small pokes here and there, trying to kind of bait, I assume, REYNOR into a bad position, but I don't think he's really going to get it here. I think this big consolidated push, though, might do the trick here, as CLEM is relatively equal in the army supply, and that's never where you want to be as a Zerg player. With the Hydras on the way, the siege tank's going to have to siege up, and now they're in a very defensive position, just kind of defending the retreat. No scans to clear up some of this creep. I think that's going to be important for further attacks. And there you have it. We have a small run by gearing up as well on this side. Banshee's going home, going to join the attack. But here we go, a full wraparound here from REYNOR. Doesn't get the connection on the Marines with those Banelings, but he still cleans up all of the AoE, all the DPS. The Banshee's going to try and engage here, just trying to take out some of those Hydralisks to make the next strike easier. And actually, they're doing a pretty good job of getting those pickoffs. REYNOR's got a bit of a counterattack here, trying to get on top of the siege tanks, but no dice for him. The Banshees just getting massive amounts of damage done here. 7 workers going down, and they are not going to stop just yet. And as I say that, they do get taken down. I mean, this is really the point where CLEM wants to start trading out versus these lings. You need to get a... he's really in a position to get those cost-effective trades, and... Really, that's all you need right now is cost effectiveness. Force him back and keep him from making too many more workers, especially as you've taken out 12 in the back. But REYNOR with a huge counterattack right now as CLEM's still pushing the front. I mean, REYNOR's still getting some amazing damage right here, although he is about to lose his 5th. And I mean, I'm still liking this for CLEM. He's really kept the aggression up and really forced REYNOR into a bad position, taking some questionable fights here. But now with lurkers on the way, I'm really worried for how this goes. Oh no, he's on hold position. Oh man, that actually was not as bad as it could have been for CLEM. The siege up is wonderful. A counterattack coming in for REYNOR as well. Now CLEM just so indecisive with this, I feel. It seems like he keeps trying to rotate around, trying to get a better position, but honestly, every time REYNOR comes in here, he just loses more and more. But here we go. All the lurkers have been decimated. He's starting to get cleaned up a little bit of red on those Marines. Not that much healing left here, but he does cancel a good majority of those lurkers. He's going to get on top of the production, on top of the tech for REYNOR. And keep in mind, REYNOR still doesn't have too much going for him right now. I don't think he actually has the upgrades for those lurkers, so they're not as effective as they could be. And there you have it. CLEM, brute forcing his way forward, is going to take game number 2. So with a tied up series, we will see you in the next one. And now it is time for game number 3. Already a back and forth series just in the first couple of games. So without further ado, spawning in the bottom position of Lightshade LE, he is REYNOR. And his opponent up here in the top for Team Liquid, he is CLEM. So now, we have seen CLEM try and be an aggressive player, but at the same time, he's been very kind of slow to make his decisions in terms of these attacks. He's always been kind of rotating around REYNOR, trying to get a better position as REYNOR just going for these counterattacks behind it. And really, that's been hurting CLEM a little bit. Now, CLEM's still a very good, very methodical player. He still has quite a bit of opportunity to show himself a little bit more aggressively, and I think that's really going to be best for him. Is REYNOR is a tough opponent. He's one of the top players in the world, and with that kind of comes the respect that a lot of players will give a player such as that, where they'll be a little bit less aggressive. They'll try and kind of beat you in a straight up game. I don't think that's the way to go. I think with this, you just need to kind of push away forward and kind of brute force in and try and kill him pretty darn quickly so that he can't beat you in the later stages of the game. Unfortunately for REYNOR, though, CLEM is one of those players. He does like getting to that later stage of the game. His control is very good with a very diverse army. So it's never a guaranteed win, as it usually is in a late game TVZ. So you do need to kind of stay on top of things as much as possible. Now with this CLEM, kind of just being cookie cutter here. Nothing really too much to say. We do have the Reaper coming around. Might get a Ling, but I don't think REYNOR's going to allow him to do so. There we go, 1 kill. And from here, it's pretty much just going to be rotate around, try and get some kills, maybe get a cancel on that first creep tumor. Funnily enough, REYNOR is going to be very defensive with that. And from there, he's just going to back out. Okay. Luckily, though, he does keep this alive. This does mesh very well with the Hellions later on. But again, CLEM just not very aggressive with them, all things considered. He has tried to keep a majority of his army alive, and he hasn't really dived on top of things, which is very helpful in most situations. But again, he's just not really getting a lot of damage done early on versus REYNOR, who once he gets that explosion, becomes a very difficult opponent to face, especially with those lurkers. Once those come out, it's very difficult to get in there with them. Reaper does get taken down. The first couple of Hellions are going to be coming across, and actually we're going to see the Pult Viking come out to kind of clean up some of these overlords, just trying to prevent vision for REYNOR. Behind this, we do have 3 bases. So CLEM already gearing up for the macro game. This is becoming a little bit more commonplace, where you will just go for the 1-1-1 and then go for the fast 3rd CC behind it. CLEM, you absolute legend, man. Adding on the additional fusion core, although it's unfortunate because REYNOR did get a full scout off of what's coming his way. Does have to sack an overlord for it, though, so he will have to replace that. Okay, so now REYNOR kind of knows that he can start to be a bit more aggressive out on the map. He's throwing down the Roach Warren, which might not make a lot of sense versus battlecruisers, but the fact is, CLEM is going to be sacrificing a lot of economy to get this out. And from there, REYNOR can really just push his way forward with a very aggressive Roach attack. Now, once again, CLEM just kind of rotating around, trying to find a little bit of an opening. There's not that many Lings in position, only 11. So this amount of Hellions is going to really do wonders versus that, but you do need to stay away from the Queens, essentially, to make this work. Now he is going to get a lot of this creep spread taken down, forcing the Queens out into a worse position to try and respread this. But I gotta say, REYNOR's creep spread is on point right now. Just really making sure that he has good vision and good mobility around the map. Behind this, we do see the double factory coming down, so it is mech behind this battlecruiser. But again, we'll have to see how much damage this can get done, because REYNOR has known it's coming for quite a long time. Queens are in position now. He's going to throw down that Spire. And unfortunately, that's all the damage that the battlecruiser is going to get for right now. But the double prong, Hellions do get pushed back from the Roaches. And now from here, it's going to be a little bit slower from CLEM, as he kind of just tries to power up this mech army. He needs to be a little bit more defensive as that Roach count starts to grow. The Spire's going to help out quite a bit versus this, as we do see that CLEM is going to be committing a little bit more heavily to it. And, I mean, really from here, both players just need to power up a bit. It's not really going to be conducive to see a big fight anytime soon. So, yeah, the Hellions just going to be pretty much all that's out on the map for CLEM, as well as the battlecruisers kind of teleporting around. Now, this is a pretty important part of mech as well. You do need to keep that creep spread nice and low, as your army is a lot less mobile, so it's very difficult to kind of get those good positions as the Terran player. So just keeping that creep back is very important. I don't think Reynor's going to get anything done right here. He's going to dive on top of the greens. You got to be careful. There is a chance of losing those battle cruisers in the red health. Remember, it is a timer now, so they don't go as fast as they used to. Magfield accelerators, so we should be seeing that switch into Cyclones. And I mean, really, Clem has been making the good transitions here and there. REYNOR not really able to get on top of this. He's been trying to expand, but only just now getting that 4th base up and running. So, really, he's just, you know, he's just really a little bit behind where he would like to be. Hitting one of the queens is really nice too, and the first drones to actually die in quite a bit of time. And really at this point you can just kind of expend those Hellions. They're only there as mineral units, so it's really just that gas that you need to keep on top of. REYNOR though, gonna go for another big strike here. There's a big siege tank line, so we'll have to see how much can he get done. Cyclones in the back of him start taking care of those Corruptors. And as REYNOR moves in, he does get one big fungal off, or bile rather. But that Corruptor count is pretty darn low as the battlecruisers just start to whittle away at them. All things considered, I think that this is a very easily defensible position for Clem. He might lose a couple of these depots, not the biggest of deals. Couple more vials on top of those siege tanks, and this fight is over. So I'm trying to force it in again, but I think at this point you should just kind of let REYNOR retreat. Don't move too far forward, as you'll just pretty much lose everything. Does look like Clem is expecting a different angle of attack here from REYNOR, but unfortunately for him, that means his units are going to be completely out of position for this next strike. And the 3rd base completely under threat. On the other side, we do see a small Hellion run by. They do have blue flame, so they will be two-shotting those workers. But unfortunately, the battlecruisers getting hit by those vials. They will have to retreat. It looks like REYNOR's going to start to get cleaned up a bit here. As that run-by does get cleaned up as well. 8 workers going down. Not the hugest of losses for REYNOR. But he does get the retreat here with a few of those Corruptors. Now, from here, REYNOR hasn't really taken a lot of damage. So he's still up on that very wonderful count of workers. He can really just kind of afford to trade out these roaches, as it's a lot harder for Clem to kind of replace this army. But it has to be just that, a trade. As if you take a bad fight here and there, you're just really going to get super far behind. Once again, REYNOR going to just force this position away. The Corruptors did not get the kill on that planetary fortress, so equal. He's actually equal on the number of bases. Never where you want to be versus a Terran player. A little bit late to the party there, bud. So So once again, finding a position where the army is not going to get quite a few SCV kills, and the 4th does fall. Now just needs to back out of there so he doesn't lose too much to the Cyclones. The Bile's going to be doing well for the retreat. I think from here it's going to be conducive to kind of get this wraparound of Lings. Kind of just to get on top of the Cyclones in the back. I think really that's one of the best options for him, as the Hellions in front going to kind of help push Clem's way forward just a little bit. He's up in a nice position. He's trying to get a read on these reinforcements, just trying to make sure that Clem cannot reinforce this position. So his strategy right now is kind of just to start whittling this down. And here we go, the wraparound is enough to kind of force those siege tanks to not get the best connections. And REYNOR will clean this up, even killing off a lot of these Cyclones. On the other side, though, the Hellions getting the damage that they need. So really, this is tooth and nail for both players. Clem getting some really good connections. And, I mean, REYNOR not really able to respond as he keeps trading out a little bit ineffectively. So REYNOR will finally clean up this position as the Cyclones are going down. Those Lings, I don't actually think they have any upgrades. So they're going to take a while to kill this stuff, as the armor upgrades for Clem are pretty good. One thing that we haven't seen as well for REYNOR, he hasn't really been going for any of these big counterattacks. Just these small run-bys, doing what they can to get the additional damage up and kind of force Clem back. That's really what's kept him in these games for the past couple of series. And I mean, now he does have this small one, but again, those Lings just don't really get too much damage done. Now, one question I have is, does REYNOR have a hive? And he doesn't. So, really, as these +3 upgrades start to come in for this mech, that's going to be a very huge lead, as you really do need hive tech to kind of start dealing with these later stages. Battlecruisers are going to have free reign as the Corruptors, not in really big numbers here, so that will be able to get on out. And I mean, from here, REYNOR is completely maxed out, and he's got that transition into the kind of Banelings to deal with the Hellions in the front, but still he's not really been able to get in there. This big engagement, the Cyclone's going to be able to rotate around the Biles, just trying to use those for the retreat. But now Clem has a dilemma. He can't really push too far up off the creep. Another big Hellion run by here, going to get quite a bit of drone kills. And now REYNOR will have to replace those once again. That's a lot of army that he is not going to have. I mean, he's starting to find a little bit of a groove here, I would say, just with the fact that he has started to kind of section off some of these Lings. And trying to go for a little bit of a two-prong here, but Clem in a fantastic position. That siege line is not going to be broken. He's going to try and rotate his way around, but here we go. this is what I was kind of hoping for. REYNOR trying to go for it, but unfortunately just is not able to get it done. Are finally falling, but here we go. The big engagement. Clem smells blood in the water. And I mean, from here, REYNOR trying to fight in only one location. He's not going for the wraparound. Finally, the Ling's going to try and get on top of this. The Widowmines not going to get their shots off, but he does get on top of the Cyclones, and this is the kind of thing that he needs to get done if he wants to win this one. Those Siege Tanks still getting some really good connections, but they finally do fall, and it looks like this position is finally broken here. REYNOR might have a supply deficit, but now he can kind of reinforce his army with his larva. Raptor's gonna do what they can. But, you know, now really Clem is starting to push his way forward. He wants to take these more forward locations just to kind of push REYNOR as far back as possible. And what that allows him to do is that allows him to keep the creep low. It allows him to kind of get a better position to attack into. And, oh, REYNOR just really having trouble here for the last couple of seconds as that base goes up. Oh, that's actually where his Evo chambers are, so he might not be able to get any upgrades here for a little bit. Now, he's trying to go up to Broodlords. The problem with that is Broodlords are going to be very pricey. They're going to be very far delayed. And for every Broodlord, it means you're going to have less army on the ground, as Clem is already maxed out once again, and REYNOR only pushing 150 supply. So really, this is Clem's game to lose right now, as I don't even know if the Broodlords can do much, as we already have Viking production. Gonna take out the base. REYNOR pushed back to his fourth. Widowmine's not really doing the damage they need, but these Cyclones just getting so many good pickoffs. He's able to really push his way forward. And now the Siege Tanks going to be in position, and I think this might be the last big engagement here as REYNOR's army starts to get decimated. Clem taking a fantastic position. The Broodlords have fallen as well. Once this base goes down, I think this is it for REYNOR. We might see Clem get that lead back in this series. And there you have it. Clem goes back up 2-1, and we'll see you in game number 4. So for game number 4, we go to Oxide. And while he may be down, he's certainly not out. Spawning in the top for Clash, he is REYNOR. And his opponent down here in the bottom 4, Team Liquid, he is Clem. So I don't think we're going to be seeing mech on this map. It's a little bit wider, a little bit more attack paths. So I think that does kind of favor Zerg a little bit more, just with those more hidden ways that you can get around your opponent's army. And I mean, from here, I think CLEM just wants to kind of push the issue a little bit earlier. If you keep getting into those late game situations, although you may be pretty good at them, they can start to wear you down in a long series such as this. He's only 2 games from victory, so really you just want to get those as quickly as you possibly can without sacrificing your chances. Already, nothing too crazy coming down here. We've got the racks and the gas. That's about as bog standard as you can get early on. If you didn't see those, you would be so confused. Mainly because you would probably have lost in the last 5 seconds. Okay. So the Reaper is an indispensable tool right now. It's just going to be used for that scouting information. A bit of a nuisance to deal with as the Zerg, but it's not really dangerous, especially as the game goes on. Now, CLEM did come in here with that first SCV just to make sure that it was a hatchery first build. And he will get a pretty quick kill on that link, but I don't think he's really going to get too much more here as REYNOR starts to kind of push that creep forward with that queen. Once again, however, we are going to see the fast triple CC. Heck, even before the factory finishes that went up. And what that allows him to do is that allows him to continue this aggression, which by the looks of this double racks is going to be a doozy of an attack. Now REYNOR, this is interesting as REYNOR did go for a bit of a more out there third base location. One thing that kind of tells me is that there is good potential to kind of push this location full of creep, kind of keep that going. And the reason I say that is that it's very far away, so you are going to have to push a lot further with the purple carpet just to make sure that you can get in there to defend it. But there we go. We do see that REYNOR gets a pretty good scout off. He sees the second racks being built. And from here, not necessarily alarm bells need to start ringing, but you do need to kind of start getting that prep up. There's a lot of time before this is going to hit. So just to add on those additional queens, add on the additional lings, and start to drone up behind it. Maybe even throw down some Evo chambers and start up your lair. That may sound like a lot, but these guys are the best of the best, so I'm sure they can make something like that work. Yeah, there you have it. He's going to throw down those Evo chambers. Just going to keep him super safe in terms of that upgrade advantage. Now, once again, the Hellions actually going to be able to dive on in here. Only one drone falling before he retreats. But I mean, essentially here for REYNOR, he's set up. He's ready to go. It's kind of curious to see him going for the +1 range attack, though, as he doesn't actually have a Roach Warren anywhere to be seen. Maybe going to be using that for the Queen so that he can kill off the Medivacs a little bit quicker here. But here we go. CLEM is set up. He's got Stim. Combat Shields is going to be on the way. The Roach Warren very delayed. So it's not going to be there in time for this attack as the army has finished up. As Bling's trying to fight in a bad position here, but they're not going to get on top of this. And now what it comes down to for Clem is, can he push through and get the drone damage that he needs? The Zerglings in the back not going to help out. The medevac does fall as well, so every stim is going to hurt your units even more. But the queen count is starting to dwindle. There's no transfuse energy left, and Clem, he does have to retreat, but that was actually fantastic amounts of damage. And if anything, he tried his best to kind of slow REYNOR down a lot there, forcing him to make quite a few lings off the back of this. So that's going to delay his drone production quite heavily at only 62 workers. Take a look at the units lost tab. Clem almost 1,000 up as well. So I'd say that was definitely worth it for him. As we see that second factory going down as well, that's going to get his siege tank production nice and high. Although REYNOR going to get some good damage done with this ling run by. Now, from here, REYNOR's been given a little bit of a path, a little bit of a Widowmine drop as well, going to be going down. But honestly, from here, REYNOR's going to be giving a lot of room before the next attack. Because it does look like Clem is going to be a bit more defensive, kind of setting up this location, expecting some sort of big attack to come his way. This time, though, REYNOR is paying attention, so he will have that backed up. And yeah, you know, Clem just being very defensive here. Looks like it's going to work for him, as he's just going to dive right on top of the roaches. Keep in mind that it's relatively equal on the upgrades, so the roaches are in a good position to trade out efficiently. Looks like he's just going to open up another attack path as well, try and get away from those whittling siege tank fire. And again, he's just going to try and dive on top of this. The Biles going to do what they can to keep this going. We did see a couple of drops loaded up, but I don't know if they're moving across the map or not. REYNOR just trying to overload this position. A lot of those siege tanks trying to get into position, but they are not going to be sieged up right now. Now that they are, this position's a little bit more defensible, but at the same time, the spread is pretty good. REYNOR doing really well here, even though it doesn't really seem like it. Clem is going to be able to clean this up, however, and I think now Clem is just going to push his way forward as much as possible. Cast a curse right there. Now the problem for Clem is he does keep losing these siege tanks, which is going to be important to the attack. Luckily, roaches don't really scale that well. So with the upgrades, he should be able to kind of press his way forward as much as he can. But I mean, from here, again, REYNOR has stabilized pretty efficiently. He's going to just run up behind this, get some more upgrades for the Lings, transition into Banes. yeah, as CLEM takes his 4th base, a stable mid game. Okay. I've seen worse drops. Now from here, REYNOR has that explosion that all the Zergs dream about. He's got that hive on the way here soon, as that infestation pit is gonna be done pretty soon. And again, he's going up to 90 workers. So he's just gonna be able to produce for days. Even cleaning up the last of these drops here. CLEM gonna be going for a very concerted attack right now, however. As those banelings don't have speed, this is the perfect opportunity to push onto the creep. Plus 2 Carapace isn't even done for the Zerg player. And already those drones starting to fall. REYNOR going to be trying to dive on top of these siege tanks in the back, just waiting for the Medivacs to move too far forward. But CLEM going to back down, trying to keep an angle on both sides, and REYNOR only coming in from one direction. I think that's a big mistake, honestly, as he just takes way too bad of a fight right there, going from one direction. Now CLEM does have a good angle right now, as he's going to be rotating around to that 5th base with a good chunk of the reinforcements. And that's actually going to be it before they even get there. GG is called, and CLEM goes up to match point. Now that does mean we're going to be going into game number 5, and we will see you in just a sec. So even with match point, there is everything to play for right now. Spawning in the top position as the Red Terran player, he is Team Liquid's CLEM. And his opponent down here in the bottom as the Blue Zerg clashes REYNOR. This has certainly shown that CLEM is a very rising star right now. REYNOR, obviously one of the best players in the world, and just the fact that CLEM is able to really beat him down, kind of get that death by 1,000 cuts, is really incredible to see, and it shows how good CLEM can be in these longer tournament situations here. Now that's not saying REYNOR is down and out. He still has quite a bit up his sleeve, and he has a lot of potential to get that kind of reverse sweep to come back into this one. Although right now he is just going to play it pretty darn standard. Go for a kind of normal hatch before pool. He doesn't really want to rest his chances on anything too aggressive. All right. So, yeah, again, nothing really too much to say here. Pillars of Gold, it's kind of one of those maps that you can go pretty macro intensive. You do have this safer 3rd base down here, a bit more of an aggressive one in the front as well. So we should be seeing kind of that later stage scenario, I'd imagine, from these two players. But, yeah, here we go. Lee's just going to try and shoo away the Reaper. Just, you know, if they could get some damage on it, it would be great, as really you do want to kind of whittle it down so that you can throw down that creep tumor in the front a little bit easier, as that's kind of one of the most important creep tumors you can have. I'll try and dive on top of it, but the KD8 charge not in position, so that will go up. And behind this, once again, just a safer 3cc into factory. Slowly, CLEM is going to be forced back as REYNOR takes that safer third base location. And, I mean, it would be nice to keep the Reaper alive, but it served its purpose. There's no real point in worrying if it falls from this point on. Just good for that scouting information. And I mean, behind this, it is going to be Banshees once again for CLEM. The problem is, REYNOR has just been all over the place with his scouting information, just making sure that he can see everything. Now, he doesn't see the cloak startup just yet. He's doing his best to kind of hide that for as long as possible. Maybe trying to make him think of Vikings or a similar, but you know, I think REYNOR pretty much knows what's going on here. And behind this, he's going to be throwing down the Baneling Nest. Behind this, a little bit of a safer choice. And did he actually see? He saw the Tech Lab and he saw Stim starting, so the Baneling Nest is going to make sure that he's a lot safer. That's a lot of Hellions. And the fact that he's kept a lot of them alive as well, it just means that the chance for a big committed push is just so much bigger. Now he's going to try and dive on top of things right now, but the Ling's going to prevent that. Just trying to be very cautious, but he's, you know, being a bit more aggressive, just trying to take down those Lings. Good Evo chamber block right there. Just going to keep the drones a little bit safer. But that's going to be enough for CLEM. I think he just wants to back off out of there, not really being too risky once again. There you see that third base kind of come into play. Now, REYNOR's doing a good job of keeping that creep spread very far forward. That's going to make any push take a little bit longer time to get across, but still, honestly, both players just trying to power up behind this, do what they can to kind of get that one huge engagement. Rather than kind of go for these scrappy fights in the later stages. Kept the Banshee at home too, which is pretty interesting to see there. Just the fact that it was scouted, I guess, makes him want to keep that a little bit safer. We're going to be here all day waiting for this Overlord to get across the map. There you go. So behind this, CLEM is adding on 2 additional Raxes, and actually the Banelings get soaked up by the siege tanks. So now, CLEM has found his trigger, and he's just going to push on forward. Good focus fire, going to take down a good majority of those banelings, and there is still way too much here for REYNOR to deal with. He needs to wait for those banelings to finish in the back. CLEM does need to retreat, but he does so with a majority of his forces, and even then the banelings still getting completely wasted there. The baneling drop did get a couple of workers in the back, but still CLEM pushing his way forward. This is where the parade push starts, ladies and gentlemen. Four more workers going down. These overlords doing a pretty good job of trying to slow CLEM down, but still, there is just way too much here, and I think CLEM has really broken down this position enough to where he is going to keep. Excuse me there. He's just going to keep going. There's no reason not to. Kills off the fourth, the fifth base not mining. That overlord's still chilling. And there you go. With C-chain connections like that all over the banelings, there's just not enough here. And I think CLEM might just take the victory and the grand finals as he swoops in to the natural. There is not much left here. Now we're kind of just waiting for that tap out. And there you have it. CLEM has taken the series, taken the game, and taken our hearts once again with a very clean Terran victory. So I'd like to thank you all for tuning in once again. If you like what we do here, hit like, favorite, and subscribe, and we will see you at the next big event. See you later, guys.